environmentalists learned long ago that if people don't value a piece of land, when that land is threatened, they won't be motivated to defend it. And it's the same with our bodies. Unless girls are taught to value their bodies and their cycles, they won't feel that they need to protect themselves.
9 out of 10 children between the ages of 8 and 16 have viewed pornography on the internet. And a lot of them say it's how they're learning about sex.
We're like the first generation to have what we have. So there's no one before us that can kind of guide us.
I was shocked to find out what happens in the world with computers and technology that we have today. And I'm in a safer environment.
And you can end up watching that and you don't want to watch that, and then it's a danger of, you know, knowing something inappropriate. Could be watching an inappropriate video and that might even have the F word in it.
What happens is, amongst the peer group, there's an expectation that everyone should know what's actually going on, so no one really wants to talk about it. And that means that sometimes the most important things are not being spoken about, even amongst close friends.
Kissing and puberty and all of that, it just gets joked around about. So like, it almost doesn't seem real. It's much easier to joke about things than to actually talk about them properly.
Parents need to understand that it's not an easy time for children. Adolescence is probably one of the most difficult times of our life.
Sometimes it's challenging with parents because they don't really understand. It's a bit of like, I want my independence, but I don't quite have it yet. So it's like, yeah, it's difficult.
And it's the fear of the unknown. You know, on the one hand, you've got the excitement of moving into adulthood, but on the other hand, you've got the serious loss of leaving childhood and all the security that it holds.
You're not a child anymore, and you're not 13, and you're also not an adult, and you haven't reached 18 or 21, so you're in between both stages, and you feel a little bit unsure of yourself.
I'm feeling a bit anxious, especially going to high school, that meeting new people and getting involved with new people, that because we're getting older and going into becoming teenagers, that we might get peer pressured or like get exposed to drinking and drugs.
Now I go into high school and everybody has had like 5 boyfriends before and I haven't even had one, so it gets a little bit intimidating.
I talk to the children about these changes that they're going through, and it's like a light that's shone on for them. There's somebody who finally understands what they're going through. In fact, one girl said to me, she said, "Oh, please, please, would you tell my mom? Please just let her know."
Lots of girls, their parents don't actually prepare them for it, so it would be really nice just to have a course where you can open up and learn all about it and be completely prepared for when it happens.
In the absence of older women for girls to talk to, their frame of reference becomes the media. And if you think about the kind of body that's portrayed as ideal for girls, imagine what it's like if that's your frame of reference.
I mostly feel that I might, maybe like my breasts aren't going to be big enough or small enough and people might judge me.
At the moment I feel really anxious about my breasts because I don't know where people are actually really looking.
The biggest challenge is definitely how others see you. Me and my friends, we're always worried about other people, and it's very specific with how you need to look and behave. It's quite tough.
It's incredibly important for girls and boys to learn that feelings are okay. It's what you do with them that can be destructive or creative.
With different feelings, it's like you learn to manage them, but at the beginning it's quite hard.
Difficulties with my family, so challenging my parents and feeling like my parents were challenging me.
I just don't want it to affect anybody else, you know, with mood swings.
If you don't have anybody to talk to, then it can be a little bit of a problem sometimes.
I also facilitate a program called Protective Behaviours. This is actually an abuse preventative program, and it has 2 themes to it. The first being that every child has a right to feel safe, and they absolutely have to know this, like please and thank you. The second part is that our bodies will alert us to the fact that we are unsafe. And it is vital during adolescence that the girls are connected to their bodies and that they absolutely know the difference between what is safe and what is unsafe.
SEX, that stuff, and that is not something you should be doing until, say, high school at least. Only men. Those are the one thing you should worry about.
I worry about teenage pregnancy. There's a lot of young girls that's getting pregnant, and mostly of the teenagers pregnant, probably 13.
We want to really help them to ask the question of what does it mean to be a woman, or who is the woman I am becoming?
What I think makes a woman is, well, I don't really know. Becoming a woman for me means just, it's just life.
It makes you feel quite special to think that you're turning into a woman. A woman is someone who's confident and independent, and who is not scared to stand up for their rights.
When I felt a woman, when I could actually feel empowered in my body, and that yes, I have boobs and I have hips and I'm beautiful, you know, but I was 24. Before that it was all insecurities.
In the process with the mothers and daughters, we are celebrating their transition into adolescence and celebrating their becoming a woman, because in the absence of that celebration, those changes can feel quite shameful.
When I got my period, I was a little bit ashamed and didn't really want to talk about it to anyone, but I think it would be nice to have felt more excited about it and maybe know a little more about it.
The first time I menstruated, I actually thought that I'd hurt myself.
I didn't know that maybe there are some girls who was doing that. It was like I'm the only one, you know, yeah. Maybe I did something wrong.
When I think about puberty and becoming a woman, the words that come to mind for me is stress, moodiness and responsibility.
I was very grumpy, and you can't control your hormones. Everybody just keeps hush and no one really talks about that odd, you know, discussion about a period or whatever. And if it's more open and out there, it's so natural. It happens to all women.
I remember when my mother told my dad and he just went, like that meant, and I was there, and it was like, oh, does this mean nothing to you?
So we know that in life orientation programs there's a section on adolescence. Well, in our experience, most of the kids have found that it's been brushed over, that not enough has been spoken about. They find it quite, it's biological, but it doesn't really address any of the feeling aspects and the reality of the development. So actually they're left with more questions that they're not willing to ask. Because we're working with small groups, it feels a lot more safe for them to ask the questions that they wouldn't be willing to ask in a big classroom.
And I liked how free we could be and talk to Michelle about anything.
You grow hair in uncertain places. And you start growing boobs, which are, it's not like an implant you get or something, it just happens automatically.
I've noticed that I'm starting to grow boobs. Yeah. I find it a little bit embarrassing to talk about. I'd like to be taught a little bit more about teenagerhood and my future and about puberty. It would be nice if I could go through that in a nice, safe environment.
Once they're together in a group, the mothers can see that they're actually dealing with similar challenges, and it actually forms a support group that they never had for both mothers and daughters.
It was a very special bonding moment between all the mothers and daughters.
And it was very nice to just get to know also for other mothers and daughters how other people are experiencing it. So you feel very open to share with them because they're going through the same thing as you.
For the first time I felt like I connected to my daughter. It was a way of actually telling her this is how I feel about you.
I think it's very important, if you can, to do something with your daughter and to set those communication channels there, knowing that there's trust and an open door policy at any stage.
It's time for mothers and daughters to express their feelings to each other.
It really, really helps with the relationship between you and your mom and more openness.
I was concerned that she was just getting maybe too much input from me. I wanted her to have a sense of a community of women. Seeing Camden embraced in this greater community, it made me feel safer as a mother, that it actually wasn't all on me. This is a great, great thing to give your child.
Almost maybe for the first time since I was a real child, just happy of the way I am, the way I look, who I am.
As I'm moving through my life, I'm realizing how much it has, you know, meant for me, how many instances I've come across where I've realized that, wow, if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't have been able to cope in the way that I have.
We create a process where the mother and daughter each have an opportunity to see each other as separate people. A recognition of that she is beginning to become an individual and her beliefs might be different.
Through the process that Mallory took us through, a lot of stuff came up, which I could deal with there and then, and realise that, by maybe being too restrictive in certain ways, I'm going to cause other issues in my child's behaviour.
This process has deepened the relationship with my mother in a way that I've understood what it really means to be a woman from beginning to end. I suddenly understood the process that I was going to go through and the process that my mother had gone through and the process that all women were going through. Well, it allowed me to view my mom as a woman and not just as my mother.